hell. Wow. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the release party. So I got a couple of guests with me today, and hopefully there's a couple of people sending in questions that we want to answer during the show, because this is live. So everybody smile, you're on TV. And with me I have Susanne Moog, or Susie.
Hello.
Say hi to the world.
Hello, world.
Can you explain a bit what your main focus points were, what you do?
I'm Susie, and I'm contributing to the TYPO3 core, and I was busy the last few days with bug fixes and features for the shiny new LTS version we have now. So
that's that.
That's that.
To the left of me is Benji Cott. Say hi.
Hello, everyone. So now I need also to explain what I'm doing.
Just
yeah? Right, okay, that's a live
for
situation, so
people
are waiting for it. Okay, I'm mainly responsible for UX and the TYPO3 backend. Done a lot of stuff there. Also responsible for the introduction package. We just released this morning with a lot of help of Susie again. So Susie's everywhere, basically.
That's true.
Also responsible for the bootstrap package and getting all the stuff together and keep it running. Yeah.
Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick demo slide thing. And afterwards we want to jump into QA. But it's the three of us in our trusty brick wall place. But we have one more guy sitting around in our traveling reporter kit. So traveling from places to places, and hopefully he's available right now. So we'll try to switch over to him. Let's see if that works. There he is.
Thank you, Matthias. Hi, and good evening, TYPO3 community. My name is Jörg, coming live to you from Bangkok. We have a wonderful evening planned for you. And if you should have any questions during the demonstration and during the presentation of TYPO3 v9's new features, just give us a question via Twitter under the hashtag 9LTSQA. Thank you. Back to the studio.
So that's that. We'll see where Jörg will continue to travel during the night. So I'd say we'll jump right into our short little presentation, and let's hit it off. I got my trusty click thing. Now let's see if the computer works. Is it? Here we go. So I should still be on audio. So if we do a little number crunching first. So basically, since the last LTS version the team has released, we had 266 contributors who made 3,279 commits in total. Who's good at math? In 545 days.
I know the slides, I could give you that.
So that basically means we had 6 commits per day. So if we take a look at other projects, I think we're in a pretty good spot. We compiled a little bit more in terms of numbers. So we do know that we touched about 11,000 files in total. Boy, that's a lot. We added roughly 500,000 lines of code, which is good. But we removed 360,000 lines of code, which is better. And for those really good at math who did this all from the top of their head, this basically means that we have 138,000 lines of better code in the core right now.
Yeah, but that number is, I guess, already outdated.
Yeah, there were some changes.
Yeah. So it's more or less.
It's probably more.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. All right. So let's talk a bit about what new things we got in the LTS version. So first off, there's site management, which is supposed to be that new central thing where everything regarding to sites takes place. So if we take a look at that, this is the sites module, basically, right? In the backend. You can smile and nobody sees you. That's on screen. So what we can see in this example is that we have one site called introduction. I guess that's from the introduction package.
That's actually the release screenshots. So we just reused them here to demonstrate what we achieved in that area.
All right, perfect. And we can see right here that it runs in English, in German, and in Danish. And Danish is disabled right now.
So because translation is not finished yet, so
I know,
the
but that's
editors are
important.
already able to translate the pages, but it's not shown in the front end. But
Right.
we can dig into that a bit
But
later.
it's important that nobody forgot about
Yeah,
that use case,
sure.
right? And we can see we have like a standard URL, and then we use language segments, so or URL prefixes. That is right. Okay, cool. So this thing has been. I demoed that on the YouTube channel a while back, and this has been rearranged to be easier to use. Correct?
And we added some descriptions to make it easier to understand what's happening there and to make it look nicer.
All right. Since my last demo, there's variants for entry points. Can anyone explain a bit what that does?
Yeah, I mean, you can see there that you have demo.typo3.org as your main entry point, but maybe you have a dev domain. I hope you have a dev domain because you don't want to do anything live.
Now we do everything in live.
Yeah, okay, you do everything live, but maybe others have some staging or dev systems, and with variants for the entry point, you can add these dev systems depending on the application context to the configuration. So this makes it totally easy, and you have just one place where you can configure all URLs, and you don't have that sysdomain thingy where you need to disable some domains and then enable them again when you deploy, and when you merge the database back, you have to disable them again. So
Okay,
got
so
rid of that.
so we never launch development domains to live
Yeah.
anymore. Okay, that completely makes sense. What else do we have? So this is the language section, correct? Everything regarding to languages, so locales, that's just been moved around so that you can see more and scroll less. That makes sense. Is that? Yeah, the visible in front end, that's the biggest change, I guess.
Yeah, well, basically, yes. I think that came afterwards. I'm not quite sure when we added it, before your demos or after. But the use case I just got into was basically it was for now really hard to make a new translation of a website that's not finished yet, but you need to have all configurations ready available. Yeah, and with this change we allowing the editors to work on the translations and can decide in the site configuration when we want to make the translation available to the public when we are finished, basically, in most cases. Yeah.
So this basically becomes part of the deployment process, correct? So the site definition would be part of a Git branch for that given language.
Yeah.
Oh, that's smart. Next up, we got the error handling, which is amazing because up until now, you could only define one central error handler for the entire TYPO3 installation. And that was a huge problem because you could have multiple sites with different 404 pages or different error handling, and your custom PHP error handler got filled up with if constructs, or if you were smart, switch cases, which is equally worse, equally bad. So these error handlers now run on a per site level, so I can register any HTTP error code my extension might return, and then I have a couple of ways to handle those errors.
Yeah.
So, for example, what we see in the example is that we have on the right-hand side the how to handle errors part. So we show content from another page, and a lot of people confuse that with the solution that TYPO3 offered before, which was a redirect, correct?
Yeah, but this isn't a redirect. This behind the scenes, this actually fetches the content from that page and shows it as a separate one. So you really get a 404 response. You don't have a redirect. You just show the content. And maybe the biggest improvement with that is that you have multi-language for 4 pages out of the box. So
Oh yeah, right.
this is the thing people I talked to liked most about it, because that was a hassle before.
Yeah. The other big advantage over a redirect is that we now keep the original URL, right?
Yeah.
And this is like a huge plus, because we got reports from people using TYPO3 installs that were complaining that, I don't know, like 10% of their hits are onto the 404 page that they created and then redirected to, and they missed the original URL that was requested, which then led to the 404. So I think that's a huge plus.
Yeah, the other big advantage we can now have is that we also can show the translated content of the page, because we even if you hit a 404 page, we still can
determine the
language you are trying to access and deliver the right translation for that 404 page. That means multilingual 404 pages or access restricted pages is not a big deal anymore. You can just go into the site module, configure the error handling, and done. And then just keep your normal workflow and translate your content.
Yeah, that makes sense. So next up we have the static routes. That's static routes. That's completely new. And if I understand that correctly, and I have to admit that I was busy with other stuff, and I unfortunately wasn't able to follow the development of those late stages, but I can now have a robots.txt file per site. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that was the main use case for that feature. Is what we see here. You want a robots.txt on root level, but you might have multiple sites, so there can only be one robots.txt in your document root. This is a problem.
Or a fav icon.
Or a fav icon. So what we did here is we just added a simple interface for adding static text for the robots.txt in this case, where you can directly put in the text that is also stored in the site configuration, which can be deployed. And you have additional options. Instead of static text, you can also show content from another page or an external page, or any file you have in the file admin. So you could actually have multiple robots.txt files and include them there.
Virtual files.
Virtual files, basically.
Right, but this is, I mean, it's late enough. I don't know if I can swear about on this channel, but this is fucking amazing. Okay, so that's pretty cool. You already talked about that, and I don't know if people watching the stream know that, but this is all stored in a fixed YAML file format, even though we have the backend view with IRRE relations, and we can use all that, but it's stored to a file, not to the database.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if we talk a bit about an outlook, what the sites module could become in the future, because the overall goals and ideas are not necessarily the goals, but the ideas are there to bundle site package or template selection there as well.
Yeah, but then we are still in progress.
Hold your horses. Just as a quick disclaimer.
Yeah.
This is idea stage, right?
Yeah, this is still idea stage, and we didn't figure out until now where we really want to head. But with the site configuration, we solved the problem we long had on TYPO3, and that we didn't know where the exact configuration for a specific site, may it be a theme or may it be just color selectors or whatever you need for a site, maybe loaded extensions, content elements, all that stuff. You basically to provide that full package, it must be stored somewhere.
Correct.
Yeah, and we currently still have a situation that's stored across the system. It's working fine. It's working without errors, but we could improve in that area. And this is where we're thinking about, okay, we maybe can do better by providing a new interface around that combines all that information stored per entry point into your site.
Okay, so we also no longer need the database-based TypoScript templates, etc. Which is
Hopefully in the future, at some point.
this is an outlook.
Later.
This is an outlook. Anything goes.
Yeah, it's just an outlook, but we are actively thinking about it. But that again means a lot of work, and we need to prioritize where we put our resources to, and we see, okay, when that's the enemy we want to tackle. Yeah.
And I'm actually dreaming about the more technical part of that.
Of course.
How could it be anything else? I mean, the site configuration is one of the places where we can store context-independent configuration that is still related to a specific site. We had the situation that we put into TypoScript a lot of settings that are basically for one site, but also for the backend or the CLI context. For example, you have an importer and that stores records somewhere. You have now the PID in the TypoScript. So what you do is you go and run the front end in your importer CLI script, which is bad and ugly and needs to parse TypoScript.
So what you're talking about is that if you want to import things and you need to access page IDs, etc., that you fire up a full-blown front-end request even though you're on command line.
Yeah.
That makes little sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm dreaming of a day where I have all that in my site configuration and never need to use the TypoScript front-end controller in anything other than the front-end.
Fair enough.
So
okay,
that's my dream.
That completely makes sense. Yeah, we can do a lot with that, I guess. I mean, that we now have that information, and that it's not necessarily a web server or even a database server involved. We have a lot of meta information, and with things like ddef coming up, where you would just git branch and describe your server environment underneath. So I need some MySQL database, MariaDB or Percona or whatever. My favorite web server, Nginx, of course, or Apache if you like. You need like PHP and stuff. And now we also provide the configuration of a TYPO3 site also in a very deterministic way, which can then be git branched, and you do git branch and you push to some remote repo, and ddef fires it up in production or in development or staging or whatever. That's where the root variants kick in, which is incredibly helpful. Yeah, that's...
And another thing, you can use env variables in the site configuration. So maybe that's...
Oh, neat. So you get best of both worlds, basically.
Yeah, so you can use them in all the configuration for the environment, not just in the entry point, but in every, like the language things.
That means
also,
if we take the base URL entry point, for example, in that case, if we now take also ddef, I could just add new env variables with the ddef entry points, and then just put the envars into my configuration. And during deployment, it actually knows, okay, the new envars kicks in, and the production URLs are really running. So I don't need any workarounds, any hacks. It just works fine, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's pretty cool.
Neat. So, my little voice on my ear told me that we got 2 questions already. So, we will send over to Jörg, who knows about those. Let's see. I don't know where he is at yet. He used to be...
Welcome back, TYPO3 community. I'm in Washington, D.C. actually. Quite a quick flight, but still a little bit, well, hungover and a little bit jet lagged. But yeah, actually, we had a question on Twitter by Sebastian Mikkelsen. Where does the TYPO3 team take its well-deserved holiday before kicking off the next break through versions?
All right, so basically, where do we go on holiday before we start with version 10? So we'll start with Susie.
What's a holiday?
Interesting. That would have been my question as well.
Can somebody explain the word? No, I don't know yet. I'm still in the release flash mode, and I probably need...
And you haven't slept in like 36 hours.
Yeah, well, you see that. a bit.
Arguably.
So I really don't know. I think at the beginning of November I'll finally take a week off. So stay tuned.
Interesting. Benji, what about you?
I got vacation next week, actually. So, and we are doing it in France because we are traveling on Friday to our beloved friends in France, the TYPO3 Camp Nantes. And after that, I will be for 3 days with my girlfriend in Disneyland. So, what a dev does.
Disneyland. Okay,
Little Benji goes to
that
Disneyland.
definitely makes sense. As for me, I'm going to be in France at the TYPO3 Camp Nantes, which will be the first bit of the holiday, and I fly back on Sunday afternoon, and continue to work.
Vacation ends.
So, but I have to admit that the TYPO3 camp in France is amazing. The people are awesome, super friendly, super motivated to do stuff. And just, I don't know if anyone from France is watching this or anyone who will be in Nantes. This will be my thing. So, yeah, do we have anything else?
Yes, we do actually, Matthias. I have another question by Sebastian Michalsen, but before we get to that, we're going to go to a question by Spooner or Later, our good friend Thomas Löffler. What is your second favorite feature in version 9?
Susie, what's your second favorite feature in version 9?
His second favorite feature is probably what we just talked about, side handling.
Interesting. Benji.
I'm not allowed to talk about it yet.
And no
because we will-
spoilers, right?
No spoilers.
Ah, damn it.
But it probably has something to do with also the French people again, but we will get into that later.
I mean, Spooner, hold that thought. There will be spoilers if I would answer that right now. But if we show off the features as we go over tonight, I will definitely get back to that and answer what my personal second favorite feature is. Okay, cool. Jörg, anything else?
Yeah, actually, we have another question by Sebastian Michalsen, as I teased on before. The question is, TYPO3 does a great job at adopting PSR standards recently. Are there PSR specs on your radar that you want to adopt in the future?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Front-end
Susie's
guy.
topic. I'm the front-end
Front-end guy.
Sorry, I'm totally out
Front-end
here.
guy doesn't know.
just looking confused.
Well, I mean, but there's more to that. I do know that there's a caching PSR or cache implementation PSR. I don't know the numbers, 6 or 16 or 66.
Both?
I don't remember, or I don't know. And we actually thought, or we considered that like very, very seriously to implement that. Unfortunately, that standard sucks. So it's
Maybe we rephrase that.
Yeah.
It's not yet suiting our demands.
So that's what I tried to say. It's not necessarily that it's bad per se, but the caching mechanisms defined in that standard don't even catch up to what TYPO3 can do right now. So in terms for our users, it would most likely be like a step back. That's
I wouldn't say that. There's the simple caching one, and there's the more, for lack of better word, I don't think it's called
Advanced.
complicated, but advanced, maybe
Better
one
caching.
Better caching. There
better
were
caching extended plus.
there were even pending patches for that. I think
Yeah, Klaus did some
I'd
stuff like
have to look it up again, to be honest, because I didn't have that on my radar for the last few weeks. But when talking about PSR, I think it's important to mention that there's one PSR currently in the drafting phase, I think, about something that might replace hooks and signals in the future. That's one we are looking closely at, and where our beloved leader Benny Muck is also
He's actually driving that forward.
involved
Yeah.
in, and discussing that and spending the little time he has left besides TYPO3 to bring that one forward. So I'm looking
enough.
forward to that one.
Yep. All right. So I'd say we'll continue with the presentation, just to walk through that, because I do know that there's people sitting at the release parties, and there's most likely drinks involved. So we don't want to spare you with that stuff. All right. So moving on, we have page-based URL handling.
Woohoo!
Whee!
Ta-da!
Ta-da! So basically what we're talking about is that page records have a new field called URL segment, and all links use this field, or the information stored in that field, if it has a value. And all links means front end, back end, command line. Basically, we now have a very deterministic way of using that. Languages are automatically taken into account, so no longer does your, I don't know, Danish website run English-speaking URLs. There's no longer the need for third-party extensions in order to work with that, and that's basically the field we added. And I don't think it quite does the change justice. I mean, the change is so huge. Most likely, I mean, a lot of people approached me, me personally, and going like, what's the problem? Everybody has that. Well, no. I mean, Symfony got localizable routes in 4.2, like a couple of months ago.
I don't know.
2 months like that, yeah.
Something like that. And it's not just some small part. It's gigantic. We needed to remove Page's language overlay, so that we can actually store the proper path at the proper place, which is the page. We had to basically, well, rebuild the entire front end stack, because that was code which dated back to commit 1, I guess. And still ran on PHP 7, by the way, I might add. So that was like a huge thing. And if we take a look at the field in context, we can see it in the middle of the screen. So that URL segment, the slug, is being auto-generated if I push the little refresh button at the right-hand side, correct?
Yeah.
Even if you don't, if you create a new page or something.
Then it's being created automatically.
That's the regeneration button.
Exactly,
so
but I can move the page around, and the slug will remain the same.
Yeah.
That's important, because it's a URL.
Yeah.
It's and this is what a lot of people don't get. It's the full-blown URL, and we also can see that we now know the site base, correct? And this changes regarding to language.
Yeah.
And that's actually that actually makes a lot of sense, because now the editor can actually navigate within a complex multi-site setup. So this is actually pretty cool. So this also works in mass editing, right? So I can mass edit a lot of pages and the URL segments. And if I move pages around, these remain the same. So I don't run into 404 errors, or my SEO ranking will die out, right? Because the URL remains the same. Yep. We initially wanted to build an auto redirects feature that's still in the making, correct?
This wasn't finished for the LTS release, so it's not included, but
yeah,
it might come later.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. There are route enhancers. That's when extension authors kick in, correct?
Yeah, or page types, for example. So like for a page type, you would have something like .html at the end, or .json, or RSS feed, or something like that. That's what we now call a page type enhancer.
Okay.
So you can configure that in your site configuration and map the page types to the ending. And then there's things like plugin enhancers and an X-based plugin enhancer out of the box for TYPO3, which you can use to map your plugins to URLs. And if you have a totally complicated use case that isn't built in to TYPO3, you can just write your own enhancer and your own mappers. So basically, one tip for that part is try to start thinking about routing with the new documentation and the new concepts in mind, and not trying to map what you know from earlier versions like RealURL or CoolURI to the new version, because the concept is different, a lot different.
I mean, the extensions like CoolURI or RealURL, their approach was you just throw a URL at them, and the web server says, I don't know what to do. And then the URL is passed on to TYPO3, and TYPO3 goes, I don't know what to do either. Hey, RealURL, do you know what to do? And then RealURL started guessing what might be correct, with all problems next to that. So a lot of things happening at runtime, as opposed to the current solution, which is very deterministic and straightforward and hardened, right? It sounds a lot stronger to me.
I mean, there's also dynamic parts in there. So the page routes are basically static for that page, but if you have like a plugin enhancer that takes data from the database, or even if you have your own one taking data from some external service, you can't have that statically. So you have to be able to map dynamic parts. But still, all the variants...
Unless I come up with my own slug field in my own record, news record or whatever.
That works if it's in TYPO3, but if it's something external or some dynamic parameter, it doesn't. So what you have for a page is basically a collection of routes with placeholders in it. So TYPO3 then looks at the collection and looks at the placeholders and looks which URL route could be mapped with the parameters. So there's still a lookup involved, but it's if you get the concept, which took me a while, then it's actually much easier to understand and much more deterministic to debug. I don't know who of the viewers has ever had problems with RealURL and debugging.
See those here, the gray ones, the left three.
The one on the right was me.
That's RealURL debugging.
Yeah. So basically, at least for me, that has gotten easier. So.
Okay. So, my little voice tells me that we have quite a few questions. I don't know if Jörg hopped onto the plane. Let's see where we are.
Hi, coming to you from Paris right now. It was a very, very short flight again, and still I'm a little bit, let's not talk about that. But yeah, we indeed have some more questions. One question that reached us via Twitter by Torsten Griebenow. How about upgrading from TYPO3 V8 to V9? Will it be a hard job?
Standard answer depends. So for most things, there's upgrade wizards. So it's the usual suspects. It's the extensions. I think I do know our internal estimation for TYPO3.com, which is about 4 days of work. So that's not what I consider overly hard. It's a multilingual site with 12 languages or something underneath the hood. And I think that it's fair. So I didn't really, nothing that shook me. It's a hell of a lot easier than going from 4.5 to 6.2, and it's a hell of a lot easier going than going from 6.5 to 7. So there's tools involved. Spoiler alert. And so I don't really think it's that hard. I doubt it.
No.
No, it's definitely easier than before. That's what we know for a fact. And upgrading shouldn't be too tricky.
And thanks to the documentation team,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
at this place, because the install and upgrade guide is already up to date.
Neat.
So,
Yeah.
thanks
So
for that.
shout out to them.
So the next question is from Russia, and I have to apologize since the name is in Cyrillic. I am not able to pronounce it. So, question from Russia. What about Cyrillic language in URLs?
Cyrillic language in URLs.
Everybody is looking at me. I
Yeah,
have
this
a
is
feeling like
You're the
front-end-
developer. I can tell you
front-end
what
guy.
Benny told me, because he told me that even Japanese is not a problem. That means also that Cyrillic is no problem. That you also could do if you would like emojis in the URL,
yay!
but I don't know if that's a use case anywhere. So I consider it, yes, doable, no problem at all.
Please test.
Yeah.
We would be super helpful for tests in that regard. I have to admit that my Cyrillic is currently a bit non-existent, but so is my Chinese and my Japanese and my Arabic and my Turkish.
Yeah,
and
but
my
I know
whatever.
that Benny Mac actually launched. We talked about at the Mexico. Is what was it? DNV Audio,
DNB.
DNB Audio, and it's a lot of Asian languages involved, and also the URLs were built for that project actually. So big shout out again to Benny. So
Awesome. All right.
we consider it done.
Good. Got one more.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually have another question from YouTube by Ernesto Bashni. And the question is, which feature or addition did not make it into V9 in time that you're most sad about?
Which feature didn't make it into version 9 and made me sad that it didn't make it? I think the language unbind and rebind functionality, which let you switch between free mode and connected mode in a very easy fashion. Because unfortunately the patch was like 90% done. And then just other stuff got more important. That makes me cry myself to sleep. Every night.
That's very sad for you.
I know,
I'm not
I
crying
know.
for your problems, but I got my own.
Don't cry for
I'm a
me.
bit unhappy about. I'm maintaining the bootstrap package. Most people know that, and I have a lot of constants and a lot of settings. I need to assign them to my page. The usual way is that I assign my TypoScript constants to my setup at some point, and I'm really sick of it, to be honest. We talked about how we can tackle it. The bootstrap package currently provides a data processor for that. It just passes all constants that given in a given namespaces to the template. We wanted to bring something like that to core, but we're still not sure about if that's the right direction to go. When we talked about the Outlook, about the sites configuration, all that stuff we need there, we saw that could be a better way to do it in the future. So no feature for me here. So yeah, I still have to assign it. Or
This is basic Ernesto. So what makes you cry, Susie?
Nothing.
So there's nothing that makes you sad.
No, at least no feature or addition or anything like that, because we did so much, and I'm just so happy with this version. And maybe I just don't like being sad, but honestly, I'm thinking about it while you were talking, and I have to say, I'm not sad about anything. There is a lot that could have been done, but that
Women.
was yesterday, so let's just do it in 10.
And maybe it's sad also the wrong wording. It's just like, okay, we had to prioritize at some point what we need to take in, and we also needed to do some hard decisions about what we want to achieve in the future and how the code should look like, and some stuff still didn't fit right in. So that's the future-proof label we could apply on it. So we had to leave them out. Some of that was also my decision, because I said, okay, some stuff is not in the state where we could merge it. We really need to improve the concept beneath, to have it for you stable and really to rely on the next years, because that's what TYPO3 makes great. What's in core needs to work, it has to work, it needs to be reliable, and people rely on that, and we need to deliver that promise. So that's more important than some shiny stars somewhere.
All right. So moving on in the presentation, I ask my great director to switch over to the screen. So the next big thing, redirects. This is something we built in, I skimmed through the YouTube channel earlier today, and I showed a demo of that 7 months ago. So this is so not present to me anymore, because that's to me it's standard. But
but we still needed it to do
absolutely.
The page handling.
Absolutely.
So actually, the redirects were there before we did the page handling, because we need the redirects to do the page handling.
Fair enough. Yeah. So if we take a look at the module, that's basically redirect handling, and what we can see is that we have quite a few records. And we have like a source path and a source destination. So if we take a look at the single configuration of a single redirect, so that basically means that I can take any domain that's configured, aka sites, and that's where things start coming together. I have a source path and a target, right? And that's that. We got some questions on the channel though about the HTTP header that's being sent, which is by default it's a 307 temporary redirect header. Any one of you care to jump in why we do a temporary redirect?
Because it can't get rid of 301s easily. So if you do a 301, you are very, very, very sure that you will never change that again, because getting rid of that is really hard. So the default is simply to do a 307, which you can change and which doesn't get cached and which doesn't make you any problems. And if you need the 301, you can configure the 301.
Okay.
I was so happy about redirects. Like, it's so awesome, because what is now easily possible is, I'm not working anymore in an agency because I switched to the TYPO3 Inc. But what we often had was we needed to do landing pages, and we also needed to track landing pages, and we wanted to track landing pages at a single point in Google, at Econda, somewhere else. Mamoto, whatever. So that basically means that I need to provide tracking codes. But the tracking codes are really hard to remember, and nobody would type them in if I give them a single URL, like SummerSale or whatever. What I now can do, I can just do my redirect for SummerSale and prevent it to my defined landing page with all the params I need to have to track them. And it works offline in printed media. That's still a thing. QR codes, it's easy to remember.
QR code!
Yeah! Yes. But what you want to have people is really short URLs, and you also want to measure the success of your campaigns. Yeah. So we now have that we don't need any hard deployments. We had a client back then where it was really hard to get a deployment on the server. It's basically impossible. So if the client would have such a use case that we really need to build short URLs, and we wanted to do server redirects for that, we needed to tell the IT center 8 weeks in advance that we need to do a deployment. So spontaneous language bases were not the big thing there. So, yeah. But it's now just possible, just by configuration and without the problems.
Fair enough. So moving on, the admin panel.
Oh, can Susie explain that, please? That's Susie's baby.
The new. I want to do that. Sorry, you're good. And I promised to get back to that because actually, redirects is my personal second favorite feature in Core, because the admin panel is my favorite feature in Core. Because this thing is so helpful. So what we have now is a obviously completely new admin panel. Otherwise, it would just be the admin panel. It's completely structured and clear to understand, and not only the code underneath, but also how it looks like to a user in the front end. So this could be either the editor that tries to figure out how stuff works, or wants to simulate a point in time or a user group or show hidden records or pages for testing, but also the debugging information for the integrator and the developer alike is, to me, it's mind blown. What I love about it is that we were able to reduce the number of URL parameters by 99%, so there's still some. But it's no longer, I can just imagine, thinking back into my agency days when I was getting URLs being sent by the client, there's an error on this page, and you will be getting like that get URL string thingy. That was just ugh. And so this is now Ajax based, and we're basically hiding all that information, which is pretty clever. Another thing is that we are showing non-cached content items on the page. We have a basically SQL analysis of SQL queries running on the current time. So we have, and these are even grouped. So they're grouped together by the type of query, by the parameter set that has been sent, and it's benchmarked internally as well. This is super great. And the gigantic change is that it's now extendable. And this is what I meant by it's so well structured and clear to me. And I can imagine a ton of functionality to put in there. So I can't wait to get my hands on it and start writing some code again, because I want to put like DDEV information about the current DDEV box into the admin panel, because that's also helpful. And if we take a look at what it looks like, you need to take a look at the very bottom of that module. So it's just a small bar. It's a lot slicker than before. That's the settings tab, where we can define preview information, simulate times and stuff. We can clear the cache of the current page or the entire front-end cache, but I guess that's configurable.
And depending on your user rights.
Yeah, that's clever. The other thing is that we can directly jump into TYPO3's backend from there and open up the respective page. Then we have page information, which I personally think is still helpful. So we know the amount of, we know whether the page has been cached, or the current user group combination, all these kind of things, stuff that's normally hidden deep within the request and hard to debug, so that's all there. We got a PHP INI, not PHP INI, but PHP info in a finally human-readable way. Whoever built this, thank you.
It's not the full one, just the important part.
Request parameters, that's debug logs. That's the SQL analysis we talked about, where you can basically see what kind of query was called how many times. So that's actually pretty damn awesome. And there's more in the queue, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're not. There is more. And when we were talking about features that made me sad, that would be the only thing that was on my list that I didn't manage to do. But I'm not sad about it. I just didn't manage to do it, and I have to accept that. But I will take my little team that I had for the admin panel, which helped me with the features, and get them together and have a session and see if we can release an extension with some of the features that didn't make it into TYPO3 version 9, so you can use the extension in version 9. And I'll also try to
As a polyfill.
as kind of a polyfill for features that I want to have in version 10. Like I had, for example, the display of signals available on the page pending. And I have a quite ugly but working solution for displaying the hooks on the page, stuff like that. So there's more to come.
So basically, I could see all the available hooks plus the used ones.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's
and the ugly part is the available ones, because that's there is no registry
weird.
or something.
So big, yeah.
But if I remember, we also did a change, which I asked in favor of you, and you just said, okay, I can't do that now. I will not do that. And we're actually now also storing the complete request, so we can record it later. We're currently not using it, but if you look closely, maybe you can build something with it.
Like separate pages.
Separate pages,
or
standalone
module,
admin panel without front end beneath,
or a history of requests.
or a history of requests.
There's many things that could happen.
So much for the outlook. Jörg, is there anything on the question front? By the way, where are you located right now?
I'm speaking to you from Chicago, Illinois right now, if I'm correct. I don't know. I'm kind of lost here and pretty jet lagged, but let's get to the question real quick. So we have a question coming through via YouTube by Marcus Bachmann. Is it possible to extend the admin panel through extensions?
Is it possible to extend the admin panel through extensions? Yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
of course. It is.
Quick one. Next one.
Yeah, a simple question. I love those, by the way. Yes.
There's
Marcus.
documentation for that.
Even better.
Yep.
So perfect. Got another one.
Yeah, I do actually. Our good friend Matthias Boltlesniak asks via Twitter, what is the feature in version 9 LTS that will help TYPO3 spread to new clients worldwide the most? And how is TYPO3 doing international today versus 2 years ago?
That's multiple questions, right? He tries to cheat us.
I also think so. Matthias, you're totally allowed to send multiple single questions. It's okay. So
Separated tweets.
I got to work for that one. What is the feature in 9 LTS that will most help TYPO3 spread to new clients worldwide?
From my perspective out, it is site handling.
Absolutely.
That helps you really ramp up your page really quickly. With also the extensions we did for multi-language menus that now can be completely auto-generated with all the informations you really need to do, in combination with the new SEO stuff, where Yoast and
Spoilers.
maybe I'm not talking about SEO yet,
There is no
but
SEO.
maybe there is something about search engines we will also talk about. I think that's a combination of the multiple things that are really nicely working together, that are making it really, really fast to spin up stuff, get stuff really more quickly done. You need to do a lot less working around stuff that's not so perfect. It just works right out of the box. So that's...
And if you use the proper bootstrapping mechanisms underneath that for your site packages, for example, you get best-in-class web performance.
Yeah.
And that's not what we were saying. That's what Google says. So you don't have to trust us. Trust them. So the second question is, how is TYPO3 doing internationally today versus 2 years ago? Who of the developers wants to answer that? I thought so.
That's your part of question.
That's marketing, right? So we are all...
Well, we were having a strategic meeting just the other week. and compared some KPIs, and TYPO3 is currently growing at a 3-digit rate in outside of the DACH region. And this is what we consider one of our biggest successes right now, is that we can extend TYPO3 outside the DACH region. And I don't know if anyone from I do know there's a release party in Pakistan, which, I don't know, it's like 1 a.m. or even 2 a.m. in the morning right now. So if you're looking at us, hey guys, I'm pretty sure that the wildman at Nizan will most likely be awake as well. So shouts out to you. I think that Michael Shams from Australia actually missed the release day because we released after noon. So for him, it's October 3rd. And I'm pretty sure that there's a couple of people over in the US and South America and Canada who might watch this during lunch, hopefully. So I think we're doing pretty good. There's still a lot of things to do, but yeah, I think we're doing good. So that would be my take on things. So I'll say we'll jump onwards.
Oh, it's me again. One more question before we go into a short little breaks, because I have to, catch another plane to a different place entirely. So, Xavier Pisicuris, I hope I pronounced that name correctly, I'm not sure. Regarding Slug, is it possible to copy-paste some front-end URL and directly open the corresponding page in the backend?
No, it's not possible to just copy-paste some URL from the front end and directly open it in the backend, because honestly, I wouldn't know where to paste it. But the admin panel has a button which will send you directly to that page. So no copying, no pasting involved. It's all there with a click of a button.
But that button is already available for a while.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, that's
So,
here's the thing. I mean, Xavier is a close friend.
yeah.
Sure.
We need to talk.
Hit us up. No, but the technically, I don't see a problem at all whatsoever. Resolving the URL is no different. It's completely decoupled from the front end anyways.
I'm not actually sure I got the question.
So what he wants to do is that you're in the browser.
Yeah.
And you have an amazingly incredible URL with page handling and base language prefix and route enhancers.
And now I copied that.
Right, now you have it in the clipboard.
Yeah. And now I do what?
Now you paste it.
Yeah, well, that's I'm just missing the use case. I'm trying to figure out where I pasted.
See, that's what I meant initially. I don't know where to paste it in the backend. What we could do is we could just have like a key command. So you open up your backend and you type command space and like a huge search bar pops up.
You could just use the search bar on the top right then.
For example.
Yeah, but we wanted to have that big search already.
So we want to have a big search now.
Yeah.
But
because bigger better.
Exactly, but that
No, more features.
Okay.
But didn't make it.
Too bad.
You're sad about that?
No.
Okay. No, but that's the point. So you paste it somewhere in the backend, and the backend will immediately open up that page.
That sounds like a nice feature. Xavier, could you just report that as a feature request? So
you don't have to look into the iPad. He can hear you.
I wanted to look somewhere.
No, that works. Okay, so I'd say we move on with the presentation, or just move through those things. So our director, bam.
I wasn't spoiling that far.
What?
I wasn't spoiling that far.
I know, but yeah, you can't just go, the SEO stuff is our favorite thing and nobody
Okay,
knows about that.
okay.
Yeah, right. So we did quite a few things in terms of SEO, and that's mainly, I think, Richard Hazes.
Yeah.
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but you know I mean well.
We love you.
Yeah, we do, honestly. That's based on his work. So what we now have is, in the page properties, we have a dedicated SEO tab, which has robot instructions like index this page or follow this page. There's open graph information, Twitter cards, open graph tags, etc. Built in right within the system, so you no longer need like third-party extensions to take care of those things. So the huge things is that we have a proper page title API, which is you're not on camera,
Yeah.
but I love how you love it. We can create XML sitemaps per site and language automatically, which is, again, mind blown. We have automatical canonical links that are being generated, so extremely helpful if you're reusing content someplace else. We have hreflang tags in multilingual sites, which is pretty awesome. And that sounds like a ton of things to configure, which it's not. We have the full-blown SEO-related meta tag set that's within TYPO3's backend. That's what we just saw, with Twitter cards and open graph tags and blah, 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 and image handling, and the editor just knows what to do. So this is actually pretty clever. And this is all rendered in the front end by default. So
Yeah.
it just magic.
Now I can do SEO, finally.
That's pretty decent. So that's the page title API and other things that we did. So I mean the page title API, to circle back to that finally allows us to properly access the page title in our site package and be like the last instance.
Well, everyone who's ever built an extension needed at some point to set the page title. That was... You couldn't be sure every time that it worked, because you need to set multiple values to multiple values, multiple settings
weird.
to yes, it was a bit weird. So now we have a clear API, you have a clear call, no hacking, no additional header data in TypoScript, what you're wrapping around. You just call the API, set the title, done.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yet
Same for
another
meta
thing,
tags.
and this is and we have the same for meta tag APIs, so, or for meta tags. So running meta tags in TYPO3 works, but it's also weird, or used to be weird. So we basically now have Open Graph out of the box. That's what we just saw. This is part of TYPO3's core. But if you need different meta tags, you can use custom meta tag managers or register your own meta tag manager in the meta tag manager registry. Oh, that's great. This is the task for everyone on YouTube. Finish the release party, get wasted, and say that 5 times quick, and then just tweet that to us. We can then add meta tags both via TypoScript and or PHP. And these are, and we can do stuff like, we can add a property, we can remove a property, we can remove all properties that have been set before our call, or our code bypasses that segment. And this is actually pretty smart, because now we have full control, because all meta tags are now registered into containers, which we can then access. So Benji's happy. It was his idea. He made me build it. And then I failed. And then Richard Hazer built it, who obviously did not fail.
And succeeded.
Yeah. And ask again what makes me sad. This is actually pretty clever. So we now have full access over all meta tags that we can set, and this is from what I have seen, this is best in class.
Yeah.
It's so detailed. It takes care of so many nitty-gritty details, or how I would call it, broken standards like Open Graph. Especially if you want to run multiple images with multiple image sizes. This is like the weirdest pseudo standard that I've ever seen. So that's really, really odd. Yep. But I'm happy with that as well. That makes things so much easier. So
Yeah, I'm just thinking about implementing new features. So I'll let you do the stuff, and then you fail, and then Richard comes around and corrects it. That sounds suitable.
good.
Perfect. So in the first versions of TYPO3.10, I will start building all the things, fail horribly, then cry myself to sleep, and everybody else will fix it. That sounds very feasible. So if we move on into also something which is so freaking amazing yet elegant, it's the extension scanner. And we demoed that on the channel as well. So what it actually does, that it finds breaking changes and deprecations in your extension source code that you have. And this circles back to the question by Thorsten earlier, how hard the migration will be. This thing is amazing. And what's even better is that it's now also available independently of TYPO3's core. So I can basically run that on command line, and it will find all the deprecations and everything I need to do. And if I would be a business person, I would love to have my developers put an estimation on a certain change, and then we could just run that across the entire site's code base, and then we would get like some realistic estimation from that. Because if we know fixing this takes an hour, let's just say an hour, because it's 2 method calls being switched.
It's not Frank doing all the work
I know,
everywhere.
I know, but I'll still stick to Frank's hour. That's and it happened to be 30 times. I can now allocate 30 hours of work on that. That would be, yeah, I'm too business, I get it.
Yeah, that's too business, because now I have the development part and say you can't calculate it that easily. And
Of course.
no, you can't. And the extension scanner, of course, doesn't find everything there is to find, because
Fair enough.
if we deprecate a method like, let's call it init, and it's not statically called, then we will find weak matches for every init call in every class in existence, basically. We do some stuff to make it a bit stronger in the matching, but basically we cannot determine realistically how many of these init calls are deprecated. So
But we do have strong matches.
we have strong matches for some things, but not for everything, and
Exactly.
there's still some things that we can't match at all. So
Fair
if the front-end output changes or stuff like that breaks, then
To-
I'm just doing the developer thing here.
I know, but
so
you
maybe
know
we
that-
have managers watching, and
Yeah.
then they go to their developers, and then they want, how long does it take? You can just calculate that. Martin said so.
No. Here's the thing. You need to listen. I said it would be possible to ... I didn't say it is possible. So you can build this, or you could build this. I have no clue how, because I will obviously fail.
We agree on that.
Yeah, awesome. That's like the theme of the evening. Matthias fails in development. Okay, but the onwards, the really cool thing is that there's extension scanner configurations for version 7 and 8 as well, which are provided by us.
Didn't you know?
To be honest, no, I didn't.
I asked you like 1.5 years ago if you could do that and publish that and give it to Michiel, who wanted to build the standalone tool, and you said do whatever you want, and basically
No, I was just like, I tried and failed.
See? So we did that, and
Yeah.
Michiel built the tool,
Yeah,
and
fair enough.
the Ollie extracted it from the core, and now we have this cool solution.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So if we take a look at that, so this is not command line whatsoever. That's what's built in core.
Yep.
So what you can basically do, and this is where Torsten needs to listen up, is basically you take your current TYPO3 installation that you have, which is a version 8, of course, and then you put like a version 9 core on top of it, and then run that thing from the maintenance module, and then you can at least get like an idea what you will be messing with, right?
Yeah,
So
but
this is,
don't. There is no need to get it green always. I've just
it's
seen
also fine.
the booster packet scan,
Of course.
and you already seen a lot of weak matches. Also, a strong match that's deprecated, which I know, but I need to keep it on as long as I want to support 8 and 9.
Fair enough.
So I have to live with the deprecation. So it's
Orange is maybe okay.
if you got a red, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Probably.
You're fucked. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Then it doesn't work.
Yeah. The other cool thing is that with every match, everything we find, there's a direct link to the documentation right at your fingertips, and this is at least for me, this is huge, because we get so much feedback in terms of, like 5 years ago, before we started this entire new release cycle idea, people were complaining there's no documentation. Nowadays, people are complaining there's too much documentation. I couldn't find stuff, which honestly, that's the hit I take. Right? I'd rather have too much documentation than no documentation. And I think this is a great example of how we can make things easier, because we now basically point the stuff into that basically point their noses directly at the issues at hand, and that should solve like a lot of problems. So if we move on with that, we have a lot of new features, but we don't want to spend too much time on that, and we got like a couple more questions, and then I think we'll let everybody have a good time at the party.
But we still got slides.
I know. So first up, X-based translation is now consistent with how TypoScript used to work. Woo freaking who? Who did that?
Which is basically a bug fix by, I think, mainly Timek and Markus. And if I remember correctly, lots of other people were involved in that change. And I think it was something about 100 in patch sets, and it was finished shortly before the release. And they were working on that for a year or something. So there was really a lot of stuff to do there. And mainly, even if it's a bug fix, it's something a lot of people were waiting for, because now you can rely on TYPO3 behaving consistently, whether you're using XBase or whether you configured your language settings via TypoScript. So no more weird workarounds that you need to implement yourself. But if you currently rely on these bugs being there, you can use a feature toggle and disable or enable that behavior, so you get it without a backwards compatibility break. But you have to switch at the latest with version 10, so see that you get your stuff cleaned up in version 9.
Yeah, fair enough. So that's the feature toggle stuff.
Yep.
Right? So we can basically see how that's where the new experimental stuff kicks in, and the big changes that we had. We had slight problems with the screen, so we're a bit out of tune, but we'll get back into that pretty fast. Another cool thing is the entire admin tools section. So the former install tool has now been broken down into 4 dedicated segments or modules or navigational items, so that you can focus on, and to be honest, I mean, I'm doing TYPO3 like 17 years now, and I always had my install tool. I loved my install tool. I truly did. But at least for me, it got hard to find stuff. This is why I started helping out, rewriting things, and didn't fail. Huh? Doing those things. But right now, I have to admit that if I search for things in the new admin tools section, what I basically do is I just think, okay, what do I want to do now? Do I want to tweak settings, or do I want to do maintenance? And I find all the stuff at the right place. So it takes a little bit getting used to. Like, we had the question earlier today on Slack, like, okay, where's the language module? Right? Because there's no more language module. Because that's maintenance. So, as you can see in the screen in the lower right-hand corner, you now manage the language pags in the maintenance module, which totally makes sense. And the language manager is yet a cool thing that we definitely need to demo, because it's super awesome. So Lolly did like an amazing job doing that.
Yeah, but later.
Not now. Totally not now. So if we move on to the to the next pretty cool feature, I mean, I think this is your favorite change or your second favorite change?
This is actually my favorite change.
Go for it.
We had a lot of talk about how the buttons in the backend should behave. So I know Matthias and me, we spent a lot of holidays together, and we worked on that on our first trip to Mallorca, and it was rainy.
Just let that sink in for a second. Like, we spend a lot of holidays together working on TYPO3's core.
Yeah, that's basically what we're doing. And we're glad that our wives know each other very good, so they can do whatever they want, and we can code.
And I can fail.
Yeah. We worked on the first implementation of the so-called split buttons. The idea was to really reduce the amount of buttons shown to the editor to make it more easy to manage all the data for newcomers, because we simply don't have any place to do the labels, because we had buttons like save and mark translation as done. So
my favorite one.
Yeah, that was one of 3 hidden save buttons we still had.
Save and delete.
Save and delete was also a highly requested feature. It pops up every time again. And we needed to find a solution for that. And we thought, okay, we started grouping actions. That was the save button, you know, from version 8, where you can put the drop down and select all the versions that are available. But when we implemented that, we knew we need to do better. We had some ideas.
I liked it.
Yeah, you liked it. I got all the shitstorm for that. So
yeah, right.
We knew we could improve. At this point, I think we also had a lot of talking about on our discussions platform, and somewhere out of France, Rachel Foucault popped up. Foucault.
And I most likely pronounced that wrong.
Rachel, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but it's no problem. We'll meet on Friday. We'll have a glass of wine and figure it out.
Rachel also thought it was necessary to do that stuff, and we sat together and we worked out that new concept. That's now made it to the core. That's basically removing all other save buttons, because all of them. We only got one save button left. Everything else is gone, because
but it's a smart save button.
Yeah, our buttons got a lot smarter. They basically know the state of the buttons itself.
Yeah.
So that means
if Steph could just switch us to the screen, we can actually show. Yeah, perfect. That's what we need to see.
If you, for example, just press the close button.
So let me step back. So we're talking about the top save thing,
Yeah,
right?
actually, yeah. So if you now can see we got save, close, save, view, new, duplicate, and delete, because that's what we think is everything you need. Also, you need to enable duplicate.
Yeah. But this is cool as well.
Yeah.
But stick to the save button.
Stick to the save button for the moment. If you now do changes and people complained, okay, that's too hard to find the save and close button. They need it. They can't do anything in their lives without a dedicated save and close button. So we said, okay, where's the problem? Because at some point people were just used to pressing save and close, even they didn't change anything.
Yeah.
They just wanted to close that record. To get the open documents, from the backend, just go away, or they just wanted, that's their way to do the closing stuff. So we just said, okay, when you want to close a document and you have unsaved changes, we actually need to inform you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because which is super elegant, super simple, super clever.
Yeah. That probably you will only get if you have unsaved changes. If you did not change anything at the record will just close immediately. But if you have unsaved changes, the system really doesn't know how to proceed. So should it discard the changes you made? Did you made it by accident?
Like a misclick.
Did you misclick, for example? Or do you really want to just save and close? So now all buttons got that intelligence implemented. That also goes for the view button and the new button and the duplicate button. I think not for the delete button. It will just delete the record. So
fair enough.
That's what you want to do.
It will ask whether you want to delete the record.
Yeah, okay. It will ask you if you want to delete the record or not. But we're trying to help the user better understand what he's doing without just distracting him too much by avoiding every kind of modals or confirmations necessary, if not required.
Which is actually exactly like every piece of software I use works.
Yeah.
Except for the consumer grade Apple, which automatically saves everything unless I'm offline and then my data is lost.
But it doesn't close everything automatically, I hope.
It does weird things.
Okay.
But that's for another video. So
yeah, that's one of my really favorite features, because I think the solution implemented is really smart now, and we can rely on.
And
it
we
really
can
helps
auto-save
to.
in the future.
Yes, that's why I don't want to. Do we mixing the Outlook now?
No,
because
I'm just throwing random things in
because
there.
We could also say, okay, we don't need the save button anymore. And on the first, I think it was 3 years ago, when we implemented the solution, where we were talking, okay, no problem, we got
Stop. We're just dropping rumors.
We're not
and
auto-saving for
where
now.
that takes us. More cool stuff that we have is we have a debug mode for forms, which is super helpful because the YAML tends to get huge. So that was requested. We got Symfony expression language, which is also a pretty huge helpful change. And this finally makes condition syntax equal across TYPO3's core.
Yeah, it's not fully implemented.
But there's what's missing? Like page TS config, I guess.
And now it's TypoScript conditions at the moment and variants for form, where you can use Symfony expression language. But for example, you cannot use it yet in, I think, display conditions. So basically, what we wanted to achieve was...
So display conditions, just to fill up on that, that's when you want to show a form field in the backend based on certain conditions.
Yeah. So what we wanted to do is to use it everywhere where conditions are used, but we didn't manage a full implementation for that, so we did...
Does that make you sad?
No, it doesn't make me sad. It still doesn't make... I'm not sad. But we still managed, I think, the two biggest parts, the TypoScript conditions and the form framework.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So we got framework.
Framework.
Yeah, framework variants. which basically means that we have multiple variants of forms being rendered.
And you can have conditions in there
Yeah.
and say, okay, you have that field in that language, or when there's Tuesday.
Fair enough. The TypoScript conditions, so this is basically that Symfony expression language is for form framework variants
Yeah.
and TypoScript conditions. That's what you mentioned earlier. So we got an SVG-based tree, so XJS finally
Left us.
died.
Left us. Don't talk about dying. Dying is sad. It just left. It's on holiday.
Like things leaving is a happy thing.
Yeah. If
It
you leave,
depends
that's a
who's
happy
leaving.
thing. I mean, it's just
Excuse me?
see. You provoked me.
Okay,
started
folks,
it.
this is going to be a very short broadcast. No, but seriously, so the SVG thing is also huge because it works like a charm. It's fast. It renders fast on mobile devices, so this is actually pretty cool. Yet another huge thing is the system maintainers, which will remove the 5 modules in admin tools from the view of the current user, just to clean up the backend. Even if you're an admin user, it just declutters your view, which is super helpful, especially if you start deploying things automatically and there is nothing to configure, because this is all done on deployment level, a step before. Then TYPO3 runs on CQLite, which is also, and it's faster than I expected it to be.
It's actually nearly as fast as MySQL.
Yeah. So if you're running a small TYPO3 website, you don't even need like the MySQL thing in the web server.
Or if you're installing 100 TYPO3s a day for testing things.
Who would do that?
I don't know, like maybe ask somebody shortly before a release.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. If we move on, we got quite a few more things. So the restriction containers that we added in version 8 for Doctrine are now extendable, which is super helpful if you want to do stuff like A/B testing, etc.
And that's actually a pretty underrated feature because you could implement personalization with that.
That's spoilers.
Again.
Then what I love is mandatory restrictions. So restrictions that are being applied even if you tell TYPO3 to remove all restrictions. So these are, or we should have called them sticky restrictions or whatever, which is super important in terms of data privacy. So this is about GDPR compliancy, that you can put at a later point extend the standard restriction container with a mandatory extension, and then other third-party extensions would still get that mandatory restriction even if they would say or code remove all restrictions from Doctrine. This is just as elegant, as clever, as helpful. This is awesome. Yeah, we got validation messages in the form framework as well. It's also hugely requested feature. Then we have the conditions for form fields. This is circling a bit. We got finally support for bcrypt and Argon 2i, which is password encryption hashing algorithms. And I think Argon 2i or bcrypt, either one of those is handled like best in the industry, something along those lines.
The right one.
I think so. Argon 2i is the new one. So go ask your hostess to give you access to Argon 2i. You can change to that actually transparently, right? I tested that. You can just set the encryption to Argon 2i, and the next time the users log in, they get like the stronger password match. So it's actually pretty clever. Yeah, we got the generic environment class, so we no longer need to call general utility get in end.
Yes.
This is one of my favorites. And yeah, as we discussed earlier, we get quite a few privacy and security features. So let's see where Jörg is at, and we maybe have time for a couple of questions.
Sir. I already told you I don't want to buy the pair of speakers, okay? So I have to... I really have, oh, sorry. Yeah, we actually have a few questions. One's from one of our good buddies, Sanjay from India. Just curious to know, which feature will you guys love and plan to develop in TYPO3 version 10?
Which feature would we love and plan to develop? That's a sneaky question.
That's tricky.
We love to do a lot of things. The planning, though, I do know that we're doing quite some progress on the data persistence front. That's moving forward. But again, this is very rough ideas, because I definitely won't be talking to Benny Mack for the next 2 weeks, so that he just learns to switch off. And after that, we will most likely meet in Berlin for TYPO3Con. And after that, you're on holiday?
Yep.
Yeah? So you do know what holiday means. And you invited us to come and work. Yeah, I guess.
See.
And the no, but this is the thing. So we're looking in a couple of directions right now. So the data persistence is one thing. Social marketing, hubbing, whatever we want to call that, that's yet another thing. Dashboards on our radar. The front-end editing is something a lot of people request. So these are basically the things that we explore right now. The entire signal slot thingy and hook replacement, that's a huge thing I would love to see in core, just to ease up things. AMP support might be a huge thing. Maybe somebody comes up and includes some, I don't know, something that helps marketers advertise stuff. So this is the direction I would love to see.
Like
do the-
Mautic or
Mautic or Bing ads or whatever, I don't care. So something along those lines, to continue on down that path. The sites module is definitely something.
for me, content elements, rendering, splitting, single responsibility, decouple it, make it better usable, reduce the amount of work that's necessary to do content elements properly.
I mean, arguably, TYPO3 is feature complete.
Yeah.
There's just things not so cool to use.
It's why my biggest feature I would like to work on is not a feature. I'd like to clean up a lot of things. Simply because you can do a lot and everything's mostly working fine, but a lot of places there's still some dust gathering in some classes, and yeah, I mean there's a lot of things that simply need streamlining and cleanup and more tests to make it more stable, and I don't know, I like cleanup. That sounds strange.
Fair enough.
Let's not
Yeah.
continue that way.
I think we got time for another one. Jörg, you're still with us.
Yeah, sure, of course. Our good friend Tom Warwick from Wales has the following question. What's the long-term plan for indexed search, namely for small sites that don't require something as big as Solar?
That's an easy one. I'm just pretty sure that Tom won't like my answer. I don't see a problem with indexed search. Indexed search just scales badly. So the bigger your site is, scaling gets worse and slow. And if I take a look at the question, so what's the long-term plan for indexed search, namely for smaller sites? You're good.
I mean, maybe we could do the cleanup stuff there.
Susie will clean that up for you.
I said
I
we.
can- I
He can
start-
fail.
Exactly. I start cleaning it up. I will fail. Susie will fix it. No, but seriously, I mean the general principle under which index search works is okay-ish, and I mean how the data is being stored, that's fine and well. That's
Yep.
I personally I don't see much room to improve. The SQL queries though,
Yeah.
those could use some serious love. But in general, I mean, it's a refactoring thing. I mean, again, it does what it does.
I would
It could improve a bit.
I would maybe answer the question in a different way.
Do so.
Think we will always need a solution for search for smaller sites that cannot install a standalone search server like Solar or Elasticsearch or whatever. So some kind of small search will always be part of, or at least from in my opinion, should always be part of TYPO3. So whether it's called index search, I don't know, but there will be some kind of solution.
Yep. So I would conclude the presentation part.
Sure, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So if our director could bring back the new stuff. So that's basically the new URL on the new TYPO3.org. I mean, this is also something we could talk about because back at the last LTS release, we didn't have a new TYPO3.org. So
Yeah.
kudos to the team for finally getting that job done. That's the new part where you can basically jump in to contribute. And the other cool stuff is, and that's the URLs that you most likely will see in the presentation on location as well. So you can check out the What's New slides. These are available, I think, in 9 languages or 19. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure if they are available for 9 LTS yet
I'm pretty
in
sure.
all languages.
That's what I meant. I do
So-
know
so
the
it-
English ones are there and a couple more languages. So that should definitely work.
And if you want to play a game, you can guess my favorite feature from the What's New slides, because we didn't talk about my favorite feature at all. So it's still hidden in the What's New slides.
Okay, so here's the thing. What we will do, if you just leave comments under this video. If you can guess Susie's favorite feature, you will get. What do we do?
Surprise.
No, great idea. We have this super nice
TYPO3 sign.
TYPO3
Switch.
metal signs right here. If you can guess Susie's favorites feature, we will send you one. So no, don't break it. Ah, come on. So okay, next time Benny will present all the stuff. So perfect. All right. So we kind of kept a proper time, I think. So we wish everyone a great time with the new TYPO3 release. We wish everyone a lot of fun at the release parties. We are definitely going to have a glass of water now. I would like to say thanks for Susie for still being with us after being awake so long and still looking amazing. I would like to say
Yeah, I'm
thank
not
you.
looking amazing, but yeah, I'm still here.
But you were you were tweeting at like 5 a.m. this morning.
3.
Whatever. That works. All right. So thank you very much. Have a lot of fun with the new release. Test. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear TYPO3 community, thank you for joining us tonight and sticking with us. And bye. Taxi!